There's a photo from our wedding day that has always stayed with me. Not the posed ones, but a candid shot. She's laughing with her head thrown back, sunlight catching her veil, and I'm standing behind her, looking at her like she was untouchable. I carried that picture in my wallet for years, almost like a good luck charm. By the time our 12th anniversary came around, I hadn't pulled it out in months. We had reservations at a place called Marcolina's. Her choice. Elegant enough to feel special, quiet enough to pretend we still had something to talk about. I got there first, like always. Punctuality was one of the few things I still held on to. She showed up 10 minutes late, no apology, just a tight smile and a quick excuse about traffic. Her face wasn't flushed like she'd rushed. She looked stunning, though. That was the hard part. She always did. She wore a sleek navy dress, the earrings I'd given her 3 anniversaries ago. But something about her felt staged, polished, like a showroom version of the woman I once whispered secrets to at 2 in the morning. We went through the usual motions, ordered wine, talked about the kids. Our son was at a friend's sleepover, our daughter with her grandparents. We had the time, but no real connection. She kept sneaking glances at her phone under the table, thumb flicking, eyes darting to the screen when she thought I wasn't watching. I stayed quiet. I nodded as she told me a story about her Pilates instructor. I smiled when I knew I should. The food came. Mine went cold. She barely touched hers. Dessert arrived. 1 plate, 2 forks, a tired symbol of what we used to share. Halfway through, she leaned back, checked her watch, and said she wasn't feeling well. Headache. I'll grab a cab. I stared at her. You okay? Just a headache, she said quickly, almost too quickly. I offered to drive her home. She refused. The moment she stepped outside, I threw some cash on the table and followed. Not right away. I gave her a head start. Then I got in my car and kept a distance. She didn't drive home. She turned left on Harbor, then right onto Juniper, until she stopped near the riverfront at an apartment building I didn't recognize. I parked a block back. She walked with confidence, not like someone weighed down by a migraine. Then she stopped at the building door, buzzed, and went inside. I sat in my car, letting the truth sink in. I'd suspected, of course I had. You don't share a bed with someone for over a decade and not feel the shift, the empty gaze, the distance. But part of me had clung to denial, telling myself it was in my head. Until that door clicked open for her. I didn't scream. I didn't break down. My heartbeat was steady, slow, almost calm. 10 minutes passed. Then 15. I opened the glove box and took out the small box I'd planned to give her at dinner. No jewelry. No flowers. Just a folded piece of paper with a single line I had written weeks earlier and rewritten again the night before. Your freedom is now unconditional. No strings. No lawyers. Just go. I walked to the building. Apartment 304. Her coat hung on the hook inside. His shoes sat by the door. I knocked once. No answer. I didn't knock again. I slid the box through the mail slot and walked away. Not broken. Not angry. Just finished. Stepping back into the night air, I felt something I hadn't in months. Free. I drove aimlessly for a while after that. The streets blurred together. Neon lights, dive bars, couples walking arm in arm. For the first time, I wasn't chasing anything. Not love, not explanations, not closure. Just space. When I finally got home, the house felt unnervingly quiet. Still, her perfume lingered faintly in the hallway, vanilla orchid, the scent I used to compliment. I didn't switch on the lights. I walked through the dark, passing framed photos on the wall, us at the beach, her cradling our son in the hospital, all 4 of us smiling at Disneyland. I didn't take them down. I just looked at them differently, as if they were artifacts from a life that belonged to someone else. At the kitchen island, I opened my laptop. The file had been waiting for weeks. An agreement I'd drafted after one of those endless late-night arguments where nobody really won. No alimony. No property fight. Shared custody. No war. Just release. It wasn't weakness. It was clarity. I didn't want to turn into the kind of man who measured victory by what he could strip away from the woman who betrayed him. That wasn't love. That wasn't me. So I sent it. Subject line: you're free. No body text. No farewell. No plea. Just that. Then I closed the laptop and sat in the silence until the sunrise bled through the blinds. She didn't reply that day. Or the next. 3 days later, there was a soft knock on the door. Mid-morning. I opened it and found her standing there in jeans and a hoodie, barefaced, hair tied back. No makeup. No defenses. She looked smaller somehow. "Can I come in?" she asked. I didn't respond right away. Instead, I stepped aside and let her in. She walked straight to the kitchen and took her usual seat at the counter, as if her body remembered where to go without needing permission. "I got your email," she said at last. Her voice was low, drained, as though most of her strength had been spent elsewhere. "Is this really what you want?" I kept my eyes on the counter when I answered. "It's just putting on paper what already exists between us." She let out a slow sigh and pressed her fingers to her temples. "I never meant for it to happen like this." I finally looked at her. "Then how exactly did you mean for it to happen?" She didn't reply. The silence said more than words could. And maybe that's what cut deepest, that it wasn't meaningless, but it also wasn't enough. "I thought I could manage it all," she whispered. "The kids, you, him." She spoke his name casually, as though it belonged in our kitchen. As though it hadn't been the weight that pulled everything under. I nodded, not in agreement, but in recognition. Because I'd been guilty of my own balancing act, pretending not to notice the signs, ignoring what was right in front of me because the truth was too disruptive, too sharp. "I left the gift at his door," I told her. "The note. The choice." Her eyes glistened, but no tears fell. She wasn't the type to cry, not even when her father passed, not even after we lost the baby in 2018. She stood, looking at me like she wanted to leave me with something meaningful. But all she said was, "Okay." And then she left. No embrace. No parting promises. Just the soft thud of the door closing behind her. I stayed where I was, listening to the emptiness she left behind. The divorce was finalized on a gray Tuesday, rain streaking the office windows. No courtroom, no shouting matches. Just a sterile room, 2 pens, and a mediator speaking in the same tone you'd use to settle an invoice. She sat across from me, quiet, collected, her ring finger bare. I wondered when she'd slipped it off. Was it before our anniversary dinner? Or did she take it off outside his apartment, sliding it into her purse before walking in? The thought didn't sting anymore. Not the way it once would have. She glanced at me once during the signing. I didn't return it, not out of spite, but choice. Everything that needed to be said had been spoken the night I followed her and left that box behind. Everything afterward was just residue. When it was over, I stepped out into the rain without an umbrella, letting the cold soak through my shirt and collar. The chill reminded me I was still alive. Still myself. Freedom doesn't announce itself with fireworks or triumph. It creeps in quietly, like grief. You notice it in the strangest places: a single plate washed and left to dry, a bed only half made, an empty toothbrush holder. At first, the absences ache. But eventually, you stop noticing what's gone. You start noticing the space left behind. 2 weeks later, I moved into a smaller place. 2 bedrooms, close to the kids' schools. I brought the old coffee table from our first year of marriage, but nothing else. I wanted the silence to be honest. One night, about a month later, a message lit up my phone. Unknown number. He's not who I thought he was. No signature. No explanation. But I knew who it was from. I stared at it for a long time, not because I didn't recognize the sender, but because, for the first time in years, I realized I didn't need to reply. She had made her choice. I had made mine. I didn't block her. I just let the words sit there, unanswered, like a leaf drifting across still water. Then I powered off my phone, brewed a cup of tea, and sat on the balcony as the sky turned gold and violet. My daughter padded out in her pajamas, rubbing her eyes. "Daddy, are you sad?" she asked. I looked at her. Small, sleepy, safe. "No, sweetheart," I said, lifting her onto my lap. "I'm just remembering." She rested her head on my shoulder, and we sat together in the quiet. No pretense. No wait. That night, I gave her freedom. Not as punishment. Not even as justice. As truth. And truth doesn't beg to be understood. It simply exists. I kept the wedding photo, though not in my wallet anymore. I tucked it into a drawer. Because even though the story ended this way, that moment had been real. The sun had caught her veil. I had loved her once. But that chapter closed softly, with the faintest of sounds, a door clicking shut, paper sliding through a mail slot. No flowers. Only freedom. Goodbye.